Hey guys, this is Chubs, and today I'm going to be showing you the Sega Genesis Classic Game Console. This is a little system produced by AtGames. Not really heard of that company before, but this is the special edition of the system. I'm really not sure what the special edition difference is, but this is the version of the system that comes with two wired controllers. On Amazon, I've seen a bunch of them that are wireless. And I'm not real sure what the price difference is there, but I'm assuming this one's a little bit cheaper. You can find this like in Walmart, probably Target, and a bunch of other places, and it seems to run right around $40 or so. But as you can tell, probably by this image, you can put cartridges in the system, regular Sega Genesis cartridges. In fact, it says it right here. There's also a little asterisk here that pretty much lets you know that some cartridges may not be compatible. And I already know of one that is incompatible, and I'll kind of get to that here in just a little bit. But it also comes with 80 built-in games, and that claim is a little bit deceiving because when you turn it over, it shows you all the games. And although it does have 80 games, you really only get 40 Sega Genesis games, and the other 40 games, if I focus the camera here a little bit better, are just little cheap arcade games. Like let me find one here. There's one here called Logic Dial, Flash Memory right here. There's Whack-A-Wolf, which is just like a cheap whack-a-mole game. So really just a bunch of cheapo games here, 40 of those. But you do get 40 very good Sega Genesis games. The library is really impressive. What I'll do is I'll just kind of run down them here and just point out the ones that I'm most impressed with. I'll focus it a little bit better as I get up closer. You have Altered Beast, Bonanza Bros, Comix Zone, which is one of the Genesis, probably one of the system's best games. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. You have Ecco the Dolphin 1 and 2, and also Ecco Jr. You have Game Ground, Flicky, Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3. Kid Chameleon, Ristar, Shinobi III, Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic Knuckles, or Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic Spinball, Sonic 3D Blast, the Ooze, that's a really cool game, another underrated one, Vectorman 1 and 2, those were both really popular back in the day, and then Virtua Fighter 2, which is another popular game. So the Sega Genesis library that's built in is really impressive. So again, you only get 40 Sega Genesis games. You don't get 80. Again, the other 40 are just really cheap arcade knockoffs that aren't very good for the most part. So just kind of ignore these. But the Sega Genesis library is really so good that even if you don't have any old Sega Genesis cartridges around, or if you don't feel like ordering them right now, you still have a really good selection of games to play. You're still going to have fun with them. So let's pop open the box here, and I'll show you what all comes with it. So you have the manual. This is actually really impressive. I thought at first that this would just contain like warranty information and just tell you how to plug up the system, just really basic stuff. But it actually, if you flip it open, it has all of the games in here, and it gives you like the backstory of the game, and it also tells you their controls. And these Sega Genesis games, a lot of them, they won't tell you what the controls are, and they won't really explain the backstory. That's something you would need like the manual for. So this does kind of a good job of making up for the fact that none of these games have manuals. It at least tells you about them and tells you how to control them. The system itself is actually quite small. I don't have massive hands, but you can see I can fit almost the entire thing in my hand. It's very lightweight too, very flimsy almost. It has two Sega Genesis controller ports on the front. These ports are compatible with the original Sega Genesis controllers as well, so if you have any old Sega Genesis controllers, you can use those with this. On the top here you have an on and off button and also a menu button. Here's the cartridge slot. The games just slide down into that, plug in. And on the back, really basic, you just have an audio and video cable, and then you have the power cable. Now this brings up an interesting point. You'll remember that I said earlier that some games are not compatible, and then I already know of one that's not. Since this has only an on and off switch and a menu button, or an on and off button and a menu button, since it doesn't have a reset button, the original X-Men for Sega Genesis is not completely compatible because there's actually one section on that game where you have to reset the system. And since this does not have a reset button, I'm assuming there's more or less no way to get past that part. So I just wanted to point that out too. But you have the regular audio video cable here. It's just the yellow and white. You have the power cable. It's just standard. And then you have the two wired controllers. Now I've already unwrapped this one. This one over here has not been unwrapped. But these controllers have actually really impressed me. You know, most of the time you get these systems like this and the controllers just suck. The buttons feel mushy, or they just don't feel right. The D-pads just suck. They're cheaply made. This is actually a pretty close replica of the original Sega Genesis 6-button controller. The buttons have a nice responsive click to them. They feel really good. And the D-pad is the type of D-pad that's kind of circular and sort of tilts around, but it's actually, I've been playing a bunch of games on this, and the D-pad has worked really well for all of them. So these controllers have really impressed me. They feel good. It seems like they're built fairly well in terms of being sturdy. So if you don't have any old Sega Genesis controllers, you don't have to worry about having to play with controllers that just suck. These are actually really, really good, I think. So now that we've covered all of the things that come with the system, let's go ahead and plug it up and see how it plays. Alright, so now that we've got it plugged up, let's go ahead and play some games. So if you don't have a cartridge in it, like right now there's nothing in it, you just press the on and off button and you're taken to the main menu screen. Now on this screen you can choose the game you want to play. You have 4 pages of Sega Genesis games, all 40 of those Sega Genesis ones I pointed out, and then you have 4 pages of the sucky arcade rip-off games. Now let's go ahead and go back to the Sega Genesis category, and let's just fire up the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Now before I start this game, I do want to point out that one of the biggest flaws of this system, something that you'll catch right away if you've played these games on the original Sega Genesis or even on an accurate emulator, is that the music and the sound effects are all off-key. They're a little bit lower pitched than they should be, and that is kind of jarring if you're accustomed to the way they normally sound. So let's fire up the original Sonic, and you'll see when the music starts playing that it's just not quite right. But as you can see, the music's lower pitched than it should be. The sound effects are affected as well. Sometimes the sound effects actually suffer from this. Like in Sonic 2, if you rev up the spin dash, you get this kind of high-pitched distortion-like sound. It just sounds terrible. But that's a shame that they did not get the sound right on this system. Otherwise, it would have been nearly perfect. Because the controllers are, again, the controllers are really good. The buttons are all responsive. The games handle really well. I've played a bunch of them. They've not suffered from like any slowdowns or anything like that. So it's not the way the games play that's the problem. It's the way that the music and the sounds are. Just kind of a missed opportunity, I think. But when you're finished playing your game, like if you just want to go back to the main menu without turning the system off, you can press that menu button and it will take you right back, and then you can just choose another one. So if we want to play Altered Beast, we can just start it up and you can hop right into the games that way. And as you can tell, Altered Beast suffers from the same audio problems. Really a shame again that they did not get the audio right, and I missed that power up. But let's go ahead and turn it off. if you want to play Sega cartridges, I have several of them here. You just pretty much pop them in and then turn the system on and it automatically registers them. So I'm going to open up a Mutant League Football and pop that in. That's one of them that I have. So you just press the cartridge down into the slot. Sometimes you have to get it just right. And then it just automatically plays the games. But sadly, even the cartridges suffer from the same sound problem, so it's not just the built-in games. It must just be the sound chip that this system uses. They must not have gotten the, I don't know if it's the hertz right or what, but it's the music and such is just not right. But again, the controllers are good and the games seem to play just fine, so if the audio and sound being a little bit off doesn't bother you, this is, I think, a pretty good system to play old Sega Genesis games with. But if you're after a more accurate emulation of Sega Genesis games, you probably want to look elsewhere, because this system it just doesn't quite get it done in terms of the full Sega Genesis experience. So I'm going to just pop in one other cartridge here, pull Mutant League Football out. Let's pop in Zero Tolerance. This is actually one of the most underrated games on the system. This is one of the only first-person shooters on the Sega Genesis. And this game, of course, also suffers from the audio problems. This is a really cool game. I would highly recommend it if you can find it anywhere. It's kind of a Wolfenstein style game. There's no floor or ceiling height changes. You just kind of roam around these maze-like levels. But it's pretty good considering it's on the Genesis. See at the top of the screen you have like an inventory you can cycle through. I'm already running low on ammo. And then you have a radar in the lower middle part of the screen. The red dots are the enemies. And, yeah, I'm low on ammo. I'm going to have to kill them with my fist here. I'm just getting my ass kicked. And I already died. So that guy's deceased, but you have like different characters here you can choose. And they each come with I think they each come with their own inventory and they have their own unique skills and stuff. You can see the enemies that I killed are still dead, so if you die and then you have to change characters, it doesn't completely reset the levels. The enemies like remain where they were before. But that pretty much sums up the review of the Sega Genesis classic game console. Overall, for the price, it's not bad at all. You get 40 great Sega Genesis games built in. You also have the 40 sucky games, which are pretty much not even worth talking about. And then again, it can play almost all of the Sega Genesis cartridges. So if you have any of those lying around, or if you just want to buy some somewhere, like a game store that sells retro stuff, then you can do that and play them that way. The controllers are good, the system's lightweight, the system's small so it won't take up much space. It's really easy to hook up and play. But again, the audio problems are kind of a deal breaker for me. I really wish they'd gotten the audio right, and I know for the hardcore Sega Genesis guys out there, it's going to really irritate them as well, just like it does me. There are so many awesome soundtracks on Sega Genesis that to have those affected by this, it just really sucks. Like the Sonic the Hedgehog games, every one of those has great soundtracks, and to have them be played at a lower pitch and to also have some of the sound effects sound weird because of that just sucks. But again, if you can look past that, I think this is a pretty good little system to buy. It's only right around $40, so yeah, if you don't mind the audio issues, then for $40 to have all those games built in, it's definitely not bad at all. So I hope this review has helped some of you out there. I hope it's informative, and if you have any questions about this system or anything, just let me know. So this is Chubbs signing out.